Yeah. Shaji, great input here. I will also bring in some feedback from the other sessions that I've been in on the subject, just to complete it from my angle. Totally agreeing with you that the world is changing out of a couple of reasons. Yes, the pandemic pushed us a bit faster into the future, but also I think the experience expectation from the new guests, the young guests, are changing. I don't want to name them Generation XYZ, but the new guests that are coming, they might be 5 to 10 years old today. They have a different view of the world than we had. They've been living 30-40% of their lives under the pandemic, and they will probably live more with it. So their expectations is completely different. And obviously, we see that uh, the old style, I would say the old style of hotels, building massive concrete buildings with a lot of rooms, this has been going on from the 80s to and onwards. And the buildings in the beginning were quite ugly, but we actually developed them to become quite nice. But still, they are massive rooms in a concrete building. And I understand that the destinations that wants to challenge the old destinations, new destinations like Saudi Arabia or other new destinations that are coming up, they obviously have a clean slate. They have a clean book and a clean map to work on, and obviously they will use the trends and the expectations from the next generation guests to invest into their destination, which I believe is key. So this happened with, from a close experience from Turkey as well in the 90s. You remember when Turkey was trying to become a player in the travel industry. Suddenly we started to build these five-star resorts on 100,000, 150,000 square meters, 500 rooms, 800 rooms, ultra all inclusive, and everything. And for 15 years, we've been leading that development on that part. But because we had the chance to jump on the train a bit later than Spain, Italy, and Greece, that had invested already a lot into the old style. Now the Turkish model is also becoming questioned. Is this the next generation hotels that we should have or not? And it will be very interesting to see how the developments will play out in the Saudi Arabian or other places that are new destinations that will use the master plan of the tomorrow travel expectations. And I also I think it's very key for our listeners and the audience to understand that when you say low cost, high ADR, alternative tourism doesn't mean it's cheap to build, but it is based on a different infrastructure and it's based on a different land value model. So instead of going to where the land value is the highest for a normal hotel, you probably go somewhere where it's lowest or where it's different because the land needs to be quite free from other buildings and other infrastructural buildings. So low cost investments, yes. And also there is this aspect of the new hoteliers. Actually, one of the speakers that we would have today, Envy Lodges, they have a business model where they actually propose to a consumer to buy into a bungalow or a lodge inside of this property. So you can actually, like, or the old time sharing model is changing to a new model. So we see a lot of plays in the economical world of hotel development as well. And lastly, the guest experience, as you mentioned, is very, very key. And I hear it from several important speakers and also from the big hotel groups that normally groups like Marriott, Accor, the worldwide groups, they would go and invest only in these big hotels. But now you see that they are acquiring brands and concepts to actually support their portfolio of hotels so that they try to cater for 360 degrees of a guest expectation. So when me as Ahmet, I'm a business traveler, I would like to go to a hotel of a business kind. But when I'm traveling with my family, I would like to have a family style. And when I go to my ski vacation, I will have a different expectation. And maybe I go by myself to meditate and then I want to retreat. And all of this should be able to be handled inside a group for loyalty and for bottom line aspect. So we see this big shift now, which is going faster because of the pandemic. But I agree with you that it's an untapped world. And I was actually working in the group that developed El Guna or Ascom development in Egypt. So for over 20 years, they have been developing basically the Red Sea area, uh, kind of similar to what we're discussing, this alternative business models with more space, no big hotels, concepts of being in the nature, and the space where you can actually meditate in art, in culture, in gastronomy, sports, which is a bit similar to what we are talking about. Maybe not in the essence of how to sell it, but actually how to live it. So I think that these kind of destinations, they will have an easier job in the next future to cater for the guests, especially the new generation guests that has the expectations. Coming to my another question here is the digital experience in the hotels and also in sales, because we had a discussion earlier about that loyalty programs are very important for sales. The direct connection to the guests, actually, instead of going through various channels, the communication between the property and the guests, before they actually come to the property, that you can communicate when they are in the property, after they leave the property. But we concluded that small to mid-sized hotels, they don't need to develop expensive applications for this, but they can actually have a very good website that would be up to date with creative information, and that should be enough to cater for the needs of the guests. What's your take as Shaza Group and Shaji on this one? Thank you, Shaji. I agree with most of the points you said, actually. The case, of course, is very critical because we see that technology is becoming more and more of our daily life in the industry. We are becoming more data companies than anything else. I mean, sales today, you probably have a mix of 70, 80% data and maybe some phone calls and some people coming in through the door. But it's becoming more and more data driven. That means that in order for you to be able to commercialize a product, you need to be on top of the data and the competition. You need to be better than the competition, which is always a bit difficult. But you mentioned one thing that I think is very important is that there is a lot of M&As, mergers and acquisitions going on in the technology now. Uh, Companies are buying each other. They are buying into know-how and technology, or they are buying into customers. I think that a OTA business, as you say, they have tapped into this experience, booking experience, easiness of the booking, and multiple bookings, and invoicing is very easy. And you can have a profile and two profiles and five profiles, and everything is very easy to book and to change and to cancel, and it's a trust because you don't buy in our business, you don't buy anything from a shop. You always buy in the for the future a service that you have not yet consumed. That means that there needs to be a big trust in between because you put your money or your credit card for a service that you will consume maybe 1 month, maybe 5 months later. This trust part, these big OTAs, they have nicely solved. How? With all the advertisement and marketing, but also in winning these big contracts from chain hotels, showing that they can actually be better than, sort of to say, the Hilton Group's best bar available rate, whatever, and so on. So we see that the technology is very crucial in all terms, and we have not seen the final of the environment yet. I agree with you. There will still be acquisitions, mergers, terminations, and we will still see a lot of movement. On the customer side, we also discussed that the guests experience, they wait, they want everything by the fingertips and they want to run everything by their own devices. They don't want to have these old paper stuff, which I completely agree. I see in our hotels, we have the same people, they ask for how can I do this online rather than going to the guest relations or to ask in the reception. They want to do their own stuff. They want to have a key in their mobile phone rather than have the plastic key to their door. And all of this is obviously investments, it's operational difficulties in to get into the hotels, but this is a point of no return. We cannot go back now anymore. It's only forward. So all the investments that we will do in technology will probably pay off quite quickly now. Not like 10 years ago where it would take time before you get the returns. Today, you do something, you get immediate results. It's measurable, which is very important. And the customers and the pricings, they see everything. They can just Google you and say, where is the best rate? They can go to Trivago and just check, okay, who has the best rates for this hotel? So the aviation and the hospitality business is similar into this. So the customer is always king, but in this case, we as hoteliers, we need to find the best way of making the most margins because this is the biggest issue. When we work with OTAs, which are so developed, so complex, they use artificial intelligence, so on, but at the end of the day, they take a big part of the revenue. And as a hotelier, you obviously you want to have an optimum bottom line, but not lose the exposure. So that balance and that optimization means that you as a hotel, you have to always be able to sell yourself and also sell through different channels. So it's a tricky part, but this is how life will be going forward. And I invite all the hotels to take part that OTAs is not a bad thing. Tour operators is not a bad thing. We're all part of the ecosystem. And every hotel has their own profile on and the seasonality. Sometimes you have more OTAs inside, sometimes you are more tour operator, and sometimes you are more direct sales. And I think that we all in the sales and marketing, We need to live to learn with it. Having said this, I think we reached the end of our time. So I will thank you, and I will invite Özgür back to the discussion to finalize this session. Teşekkürler.